Hi guys, Jay here. Got a little further thoughts video for you. Hopefully it'll be a quick one as we head into FP3 and qualifying tomorrow for the Bahrain Grand Prix. So let's get into it. Now, for me personally, nothing's changed since my last video with my team selection video. So I still currently plan on making 3 changes in Team 1, bringing in Piastri for Russell, HAAS for Hulkenberg, and then Doohan for Stroll. It'll cost me a -10, but I wasn't impressed with Stroll. I was hoping he would be impressive to persuade me to keep him for another week, but no, I'm going to be bringing in Doohan. The only thing I can't do with this team that I would like to do in hindsight is bring in racing balls for HAAS, but I won't be able to. For Team 2, it'll be HAAS for Hulkenberg, Piastri for Stroll, and then for Team 3, it'll be Doohan for Stroll, HAAS for Hulkenberg. Now, before I go any further, just to let you know that at the time of this recording, we don't have the FP2 sims data yet because it's too early, but we do have an early Bahrain sim that was put up last night, and it does say underneath notes, mostly a budget calculations related update, so bear that in mind. Remember to always check back on F1 Fantasy Tools when the FP2 simulation is available on the budget builder. So for this video, I'm going to do it a little differently. I've got a 104.1 million budget here. And so what we're going to do, we're going to just build a few teams, and then I'll show you what the potential is going by the early Bahrain sim. So we'll start off with the absolute must-haves. McLaren, constructor, absolute must-have. Once again, dominant on track. They haven't won in Bahrain, I believe, but they're looking very strong. It's a no-brainer. You need McLaren. Sticking with McLaren. Norris is fine, but ideally, you want Piastri. Piastri comes in a little cheaper, but also going by the budget builder, Piastri only needs 15 points, whereas Norris needs 40 for a 0.3 increase. So you're more likely to get your points and your budget with Piastri. Sticking with the drivers for the time being, bring in some budget builders. So on the F1 Fantasy Tools, your best picks for budget building are HAAS, Bearman, Doohan, Ocon. You can save money with Bortoleto because he's hit the floor, so he's not going to lose budget. But he's very unlikely to gain as well. He needs 8 points for a 0.2 or 12 points for a 0.6. The downside, in my opinion, with Bortoleto is, yes, you're not going to lose money, but you could still lose a couple of points if he gets negative points. I'm not completely sold on Bortoleto right now, but I do see why there is an appeal there. But like I say, HAAS, Bearman, Doohan, Ocon are the ones you want to be looking at. Stroll needs 17 points for a 0.6 or an 8 or 8 points for a 0.2. It's not impossible. He did get 17 points in China, and I think he got 16 in Australia. But going by the result in free practice 2, mostly, I would say no to Stroll. So, as I say, the 4 you're going to want: Ocon, Bearman, HAAS, and then, oh, sorry, there we go. And then, yeah, sorry, I picked Doohan instead of HAAS. Yeah, Doohan, HAAS. So Ocon, Bearman, Doohan, HAAS. Now you can see I've got 24.2 million. Now, here's where you need to make a decision. If you want to go for points, Mercedes. With my budget, that would leave me 0.6. If I go to the team calculator, you can see here that using the early Bahrain simulations, the potential for this team is a 2.4 million price increase of 192 points. Personally, you're not going to get better than that, I don't think. There is a Ferrari team at a price increase of 1.98 million with 196.7 points, Ferrari may gain 0.1 if they get 40 points. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility. Now, I can't pick Red Bull because of budget, but let's have a quick look at Red Bull. And so Red Bull, you'd be looking at 2.4 million increase and a 192.9 points. That being said, Sonoda didn't have the best of practice, so I would say no to Red Bull at this moment in time. Now I'm going to bring Mercedes back in, and there's obviously questions over Jack Doohan because he is potentially, a DNF risk. So the other option that people are considering is Bortoleto because of what I said earlier. He's not going to lose you any value because he's hit the 4.5 million floor, but he could potentially lose you a couple of the points. You can see here in Australia, -18, and Japan, -2. So in Japan, he qualified 17th, finishing 19th. It's only 2 points, but it's still points that you're going to be losing if you're going to go with him. I just think you're better off taking the risk with Doohan. But if you do decide to go with Bortoleto instead of Doohan, you're potentially looking at a 2.11 value increase and a 191.4 points increase. And just for the sake of completeness, here I've got Stroll instead of either Doohan or Bortoleto, and it's a 1.89 value increase with a 192.9 points increase. Now, if like me, you're going down the budget building road, for your other constructor, you've got 2, possibly 3 options, but I would say mainly 2. And those are HAAS, Racing Bulls, and Williams. HAAS and Racing Bulls are guaranteed to go up in price unless both of their drivers DNF or the team gets disqualified. Williams needs 6 points for a 0.6 increase and a -6 for a 0.2. That's highly likely to happen. What you have to weigh up here is this. Williams is more expensive at 14.1 million. Racing Bulls is the cheapest at 8.6 million, and HAAS is at 8.8 million. So depending on your budget and how many transfers you've got, that's what you want to be considering. If we just look at the drivers for a second, Racing Bulls, you're going to be relying on HAAS mainly. That being said, Lawson did finish P12 in FP2, which I think is decent. So I wouldn't rule out Racing Bulls, and at the moment, me personally, if I could do it, if I had another transfer available, I would go to Racing Bulls for the Bahrain Grand Prix. But unfortunately for me, it's going to be HAAS because I'm already taking a -10 with this team. So what about Williams? If you go for Williams, this would leave you 10.1 million in the bank if you've got my budget. And as we said, they need 6 points for a 0.6 and a -6 for a 0.2. Highly doable. Again, drivers I wouldn't touch in terms of them themselves. The only thing, it costs you more. So if they were to have a disaster of a race, you're not just going to lose points, you're going to lose on budget. Now looking at these teams in the team calculator, this is the McLaren HAAS build. A 2.69 potential value increase with 154.8 points. If you go for Racing Bulls, 2.7 value increase, 160.5 points. And that's why I said I would go with Racing Bulls if I had an extra transfer, because they just slightly overtake HAAS in my opinion. And then with Williams, it's a 2.62 potential value increase with 163.5 points. So yeah, like I say, me personally, this is the team I plan on running. But if I could, I would bring in racing balls, and so it's something for me to think about for Saudi. Originally, I was going to make no transfers for Saudi, but this is tempting. Now, all that said, I just want to talk about Oliver Bearman. Now, the only concern I have with Oliver Bearman is that he finished P9 in FP2, and that worries me because what we don't want, as you know, we don't want our assets to qualify higher than finish low. So I am worried about that. That said, in Japan, he did qualify 10th and he did finish 10th, and he even got 2 overtakes. So it's not out the realm of possibility. Also, if we go back to the pre-season simulations, HAAS were the slowest for qualifying simulation pace, but they were 7th in the race simulation pace around Bahrain, albeit different temperatures and conditions. So I am sticking with Bearman, but I am also hoping he doesn't qualify as high just because I'm worried about that drop. And finally, just to reiterate with Doohan, he only needs 3 points. He got 11 points in China, 6 points in Japan. Yes, again, he may be the one we might be a bit sketchy with, but he did okay in practice, in my opinion. And so I personally would go with Doohan over Bortoleto at this stage in time. Now, finally, guys, you're probably already aware of this, but news broke out the other day. FIA executive Reid resigns over standards breakdown. I'll put a link in the description below. But in short, Robert Reid, Deputy President for Sport at the FIA, has resigned over what he describes as a fundamental breakdown in governance standards within motorsport's global governing body. So yeah, guys, that's it from me in this video. Hopefully it was a short and sweet one. Sorry if I was a bit out of sorts. I've not been feeling too great today. I'm struggling with my fatigue. I have myasthenia gravis, which is a autoimmune muscular junction disease, and so I'm struggling with fatigue today. But yeah, I might be out tomorrow, so I may have to lock in my teams before FP3. But I'm going to see how I feel in the morning. Either way, good luck, and I will speak to you next week as we prepare for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. All the best.